right here.
Okay. So let me share my good afternoon to you, Varun. So I see Alex has joined.
Hey, Alex. Hey, Alex.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Good morning. Good
Great
afternoon.
to make it. I was just thinking about whether we can make it or not. So I just asked you whether we can record this session so that we can share it with someone else as well in future. So you can continue recording as well. Cool.
Excellent. Well, I'll go back on mute and you can all carry on. If I think of anything interesting, I'll
What is
come
your
off mute.
What is your position? Just before going on mute, Alex.
Yeah, my
Oh,
apologies. Yo, I should have introduced. So Alex is a senior manager in end user compute space in Optus.
Mm-hmm.
And so I report to him. He's my manager, and predominantly he is much more in-depth aware about Office 365 challenges and implementations going on. So his attendance is more vital. So he can give insights related to the problems and challenges we have right now. We're trying to resolve. So SkypeShield we already have in place today, and the Teams version of SkypeShield is something we are literally waiting from quite some time.
And the person who could not join, what is his position?
So I extended the invite to Rob as well. So Rob is also my manager, and Rob is willing.
You have many
So
managers.
yes, Rob was willing to attend. Rob was willing to attend the session. He is director of GIO, which is Group Infrastructure Operations in Optus.
Okay.
looks
Okay.
after the GIO architecture team.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Alex.
So as agreed, let's record it and share it with Rob. And if there's a need to have another session, I'll be more than happy.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. So are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. So what we would like to cover with today's presentation is to give you a solution overview, what at a high level we're offering. Then I'll zoom into the different capabilities and demonstrate some of them using videos we've prepared, which will be available for you to view independently of this recording. We'll discuss the topology and discuss how can you try it in your environment in different approaches. So the solution is familiar for you already from your Skype deployment, so I'll skip this. Just as a high level, we rebranded the name. It was named SkypeShield. We've renamed it as SphereShield because it now not only addresses Teams, not only addresses Skype, we cover Teams, and we plan to cover, by the way, other platforms such as WebEx and others. So what we are offering? We're offering for Teams and for other online services, Ethical Wall, DLP, eDiscovery, and Risk Engine. All this is available for you to try. We plan to include in the solution in the next few weeks antivirus inspection, and later on we plan to offer conditional access for customers who's using MDM providers which are not Microsoft Intune, for example, Mobile Iron or something like this. And the solution covers all of the client types, iOS, Android, PC, and web. And the first feature, which is the feature you've shown main interest in, is the ethical wall. So as you may know, the ethical wall can control who can communicate, for example, controlling communication with federated users, or it can be used, like in your use case, controlling between different groups inside the company. And the second capability is controlling which features should be available depending on the communication context. So here you can see a sample internal policy in which Group A can communicate with Group B, while Group B cannot communicate with Group C, and Group C has communication with Group A, but it is limited, controlling specific capabilities. And in a similar way, we also control federations. So typically companies who are establishing external access or federation want to make sure these federated users are communicating only with specific groups of interest that fit the business needs. So this works both directions. The federated company can communicate only with specific groups, and also I may want to allow only specific groups to communicate with these federated companies. And the product is based on policies in which you can set. These work like a firewall in which the engine scans them from top to bottom, and whenever there's a match, it will apply the relevant policy, eventually falling into the default policy. And these policies are can be built based on Active Directory groups. These are fetched from Office 365, so these are Azure Active Directory. It can be applied to specific internal or external domains. It could be applied to specific internal or external users, and it can be also applied to specific teams if there's a requirement for specific teams to be controlled. And the capabilities control the main capabilities of Teams, which are audio, video, messages, file transfer, and sharing desktop and application. Let me show you two movies which I believe explain best the way the product works. The first movie is controlling internal communication. In this movie, are you able to see the movie, Forum?
Yes.
Yes. In this movie, we have Alice. She's a researcher, and Bob is in the investor. And I want to restrict communication between investors and researchers. So I add a policy. I choose on the left-hand side the investors group, and on the right-hand side I will choose an internal policy, and again group, and I will choose the researchers group. These groups again are fetched from your Azure Active Directory. And I'll go to the policy tab, and I'll simply choose block to block any communication between researchers and investors. So now communication is blocked. You have Alice from one group and trying to send Bob, who is in another group, a message, and this message is blocked, as you can see. Also, if Alice will try to call Bob, the action will be blocked by our ethical wall. The next scenario is a more complicated scenario of multiple participants, in which we have Alexa from the engineering group, who is able to communicate with anyone. So she can send messages and call Alice, that's no problem. But if for the same conversation, she will add Bob, who is restricted, as recalled, from communicating with Alice, we will stop communication in this group chat in this case. So now we identified a company policy violation. We don't allow any further communication in this group chat. And this works the same for meetings and Teams. And all of the incidents are recorded and can be reviewed in the admin portal. So we have a section here of activity auditing, in which everything blocked by the ethical wall is registered and notified to the relevant security or compliance team. So this was the first movie. The second movie is external communication control. So in this scenario, by default, I don't allow any external communication. Even if I enabled a federation in Office, my company policy by default is restrict communication. So if I don't say anything specifically, any communication is blocked. So you have here Henry. Henry is external, and when Alice tries to send a message to Henry, this is blocked because it violates the policy. But if I have a business need to allow external communication, I can apply it for a specific group or user. In this case, I will take the investors group, in which Bob is a member of them. I choose the external domain KittyTech, which we choose for this demonstration, and allow communication. So now communication is allowed, Bob will be able to communicate with this specific external domain of Kitty Tech. So as you can see now, Bob can send a message to Henry, the external users. The next scenario covers specific control capabilities. So maybe I allow communication with external domain, but I don't want files to be sent for security reasons. So here Bob will try to send Henry a file. This will be blocked because it is not allowed by our policy. Still, Bob can send files to internal users. So we see Alexa sending a file to Bob. So what's important to understand that the policies are context-based. They are applied on the fly depending on the participants in the communication. So what we've seen, to recap so far, or some of these we've seen, but I can tell you the product covers all of the Teams areas, namely chat, channels, and meetings. And we also seen the recursive validations of calculating policies depending on users who have joined any type of communication. I can also mention, and we're preparing another video shortly, one of the use cases you mentioned, Varun, specifically, is that you don't want one user to be able to even search the other user. So this is also being added to the product. So if you'll try to search for a user which is not allowed, you won't even able to search him.
Yeah, the reason we had that requirement is because technically when you're not allowed to initiate any kind of communication with any other user, you're not supposed to see the contact card information as well. And that is something which I discussed with InfoSec. Certainly there is a gray area as well. I'm not sure how stringently InfoSec is expecting that kind of solution, but if there is a solution possible, then we can always propose that as an optional solution, and we can always go back to InfoSec and say, okay, it's possible. Now we need to understand how critical it is for you to implement it. So yes, I would like to see that.
So we discussed this capability both with you a little bit and certainly internally. The reason we took also other approaches, because potentially maybe a user can guess or know another username and type it directly without even searching it. He'll also potentially, for example, take a meeting link and send it using WhatsApp to another user. So this is why we first covered blocking any functionality. Even if in some way he managed to communicate or find out, it will be blocked. But still, we'll add the functionality. This was already added. We just need to have a video on this of preventing the search capabilities. We also added, as you've seen, in context and pop-up feedback notification depending on the activity user is trying to do. Here you can see hopefully a little bit a notification what happens when someone tries to add a member to a team which is restricted from being added. So we remove the user from the team and display a message in the general channel, the default general channel of the team. We've also seen some reporting capabilities or auditing reports, as well as some reporting. For example, you'll have a report of users who have mostly tried to violate ethical wall or mostly created ethical wall incidents. So this was the first part of the ethical wall. Before continuing, you have questions on the functionality, Varun, or it's clear?
No, this really looks promising. This is exactly what we are trying to deploy in more than one, projects we have. And certainly Teams does not give, granular level controls which Skype Sphere or SphereShield can deliver. And I will certainly review more white paper and documents to understand the configuration side of it, but it looks great. I don't have any questions right now.
Okay. So let's continue with.
Can I?
Yeah.
Sorry, can I jump in because I
Sure.
always have questions.
Sure.
Is there, so just at a very high level, is there anything that can be done with the legacy or the on-premise SphereShield product that can't be done in SphereShield with Office 365?
The SphereShield product offers more granular capabilities than what is offered by Teams. So, for example, in SphereShield, you can allow to share PowerPoint presentation, but not share desktop. This is one distinguish I can say. But at a high level, it's the same engine.
Core functions as far as the granularity of
it's the same.
chat, video. Is video and audio distinguishable point to point and conferencing, or are they part of the same feature set?
I don't recall, to be honest. I need to come back to you. Do you mean, let me make sure I understand the question. Do you mean you want, for example, to block video and to allow audio? Is this the question?
Possibly, but also I want to be able to allow user A to have an audio or a video call with user B, but I don't necessarily want them to be able to have a video or audio conference with multiple participants.
This is possible. The last capability is possible. I know differences between video and audio. I know there was some discussion if they are able to distinguish, like to allow only video and only video. I'm not sure at the first release this will be supported, but certainly other features, because both go through UDP. It's a little bit more challenging, but at least
that's fine.
The second scenario is supported. You can allow only specific groups.
Okay. And I noticed as well when you ran through the video setting up a share between an internal group and external. There was the option for external domain and external UPN. Mm-hmm. Now, if a customer had a requirement that they didn't want to whitelist the entire domain, but there were a number of named individuals in the external company that they want to control the communication flow, mm-hmm. Is there any interface into the web admin portal to be able to automate that?
What do you mean, our web admin portal?
Yes.
What do you mean by automate? You can choose specific users that you want to allow from the external domain.
But so let me give you a scenario. I have a very large company providing support to Optus. Excuse me. And they have 100,000 people across the globe. Mm-hmm. I don't want to whitelist the whole domain. Okay, as an external domain. Yes. But there are 150 people or 200 people, whatever it is, a fairly significant number. So those people have been authorized to support Optus. Okay, so my preference would be to go in and add if I interpret what's on the screen, UPN means I add an individual identity. Is that correct?
It is correct, but you can also have data comma between like multiple values in the same field.
Okay, but can you? So
automate on what criteria? Like how? What will be the source?
Okay, so the source may be Optus as a company, we are notified that these are the 200 people that are supporting our account. Over time, that will change. Some people will leave the vendor, some people will be rotated onto different customers, new support people may come onto our account. We would be notified, okay? And therefore we would have to update that UPN list. So I'm just trying to think if whether we had whatever options are available. Is there a way of updating?
The current direct answer, there's no automation. What I can offer for simplicity of entering these 100 or 150 users, you can
bulk upload.
you can have them all in the same rule. So you can have a comma delimited value with 150 values inside the UPN. So user A, comma delimited user B. Currently, there's no automation. We can think of it, but I'm.
No, that's fine. As long as they don't have to go and type in 100.
Yeah, you can
click
simply
the UPN button and add 100 values. If I can add them all in one string, then I can do a bulk upload or bulk management.
Yeah, it's a bulk copy and paste, but yes.
Yep. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. That's me done.
Thank you. Interesting remarks as always. Let me go back to continue with the next feature, which is the DLP. So the DLP addresses 3 scenarios we identified. The first one, company does not trust sensitive data to reside within the cloud, so they don't want any sensitive information to be shared using Teams and stored in Office 365. The second scenario, which I believe is more popular, is companies don't want sensitive information to be shared with external users. And the third use case, which is a slightly different scenario, is company is using one of the leading vendors in the world for DLP, such as McAfee, Symantec, ForcePoint, Digital Guardian, and they want to take advantage of existing knowledge, infrastructure, and experience of their current set of rules and use them to inspect Microsoft Teams traffic. So we can elaborate this by sending such traffic to these vendors. We also offer our own engine, our own SphereShield DLP engine. It offers reasonable capabilities. It's not trying to compete with these vendors, but if nothing else is available, we can offer capabilities of identifying sensitive information based on regex settings, such as credit card, social security numbers, and so on. Let me show you a video that will explain again best the way the product works. So you should see now the video of the DLP, starting with a desktop to desktop scenario. So we have Bob and Alice communicating seamlessly. So any traffic sent or any content sent is on the fly sent for inspection in real time in a seamless manner for the user. And we define the term catch-22 to be sensitive. Therefore, if Alice tries to send this term to Bob, we identify this to be sensitive, whether use our engine or McAfee or any vendor, which is defined, and the content is blocked from reaching the destination. So it never reaches actually the Microsoft tenant cloud. And the user receives a notification upon this incident. The second scenario in this case demonstrates on one side Alice with a web client. So she'll sign in using ADFS in this case to the web client. And here we demonstrate the ability to scan files. So Bob will attach a file. This file contains sensitive information, as you'll be able to see in a second. It contains the term catch-22. And when Bob will try to share this content with Alice, we will inspect it on the fly, and because it contains the term catch-22, we don't allow this file to be sent over to Alice. So file is blocked. The next scenario is using a mobile client. So mobile is also a potential vector of data leakage. And we see here, Alice typing a credit card number over a chat in a Teams client. And this content is sent on the fly. And because it identified as sensitive, it is blocked, as you can see. The next scenario is sharing with external users. So we can set the system to block, in this case, any message shared with external or guest user that contains sensitive information. So when Alice sends Bob sensitive information, term catch-22, this is not sent to inspection and therefore is allowed because both Alice and Bob are internal users. But when content is shared externally with Henry, the content is sent for inspection, as you'll be able to see, and blocked because it's sensitive information. The next scenario demonstrates teams. So I can choose specific teams which are fetched from the Microsoft tenant, obviously. I choose the project X to be sensitive, and therefore all content in this project will be scanned. So maybe the reason is because the product is sensitive, maybe the reason is because we plan to add external users to this project. And all the incidents are monitored in our system, as well as the leading vendor used by the customer. So let's recap what we've seen. We've seen the ability to inspect all traffic or only outbound traffic. We've seen the ability to inspect both files and messages. We can apply policies differently to the different areas of Teams, namely chat, channels, and Teams. We also have the ability to display in-context messages, and we capture all incidents in our product as well as the external vendor. May I ask, before continuing to the next topic, are you using any DLP for other channels or other reasons, like Symantec, McAfee, or something like this?
I think we do have some plans to have McAfee DLP in place, but I'm not much updated about it. Maybe Alex can share.
It's on the roadmap, but we have some other challenges with McAfee before we get to the DLP component.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So,
can I ask you? Sorry, I'm going to ask a couple of quick questions again.
Yeah, sure.
So, number one, the DLP. So, the product appears fairly granular as far as sort of the modules.
Mm-hmm.
Is the pricing? So, is DLP an addition to the base product?
It's
from a pricing perspective.
The pricing model is, the main features are DLP and ethical wall. Each one is priced separately, identical but separately, and both of them come with the rest two features, which I'll show you in a second: the eDiscovery and the risk engine.
Okay, cool. And the second one is that the internal DLP rules. Your videos were showing the file scanning for key words or phrases.
Yes.
Are there any other options around the DLP scanning, what it can scan for?
What do you mean? Other scan not files? What do you mean? I'm not sure I understand.
Yes. So well, whatever be it. I mean, particularly yes, it's around the files. So there's a risk of files leaving the organization and if we're just looking keyword scanning, then it takes an individual to know what the keywords are and to go and change them in the original document, and then they can potentially transfer them. Are there any other methods?
Such as probably the answer is no, but I still don't understand. Okay. What do you have in mind, for example? Can you give me an example?
So,
like we rely on McAfee. McAfee is one of the leading vendors in DLP. I'm sure you're aware of this. And whatever McAfee offers, it's transparent to us. We simply send the file to McAfee. They do the magic they know to do. It's a very advanced and many years of experience and knowledge inside this. And it simply gives me back the answer: send or block.
Okay, so let me ask the question a different way. Mm-hmm. If we didn't have any DLP product, what is there a native capability in SphereShield to perform the DLP function, or is it completely reliant on a third party integration.
We have, let me show you what we have. We have basic capability, let me show you 1 second.
Yep. Okay.
It's the same engine for SphereShield, so I'll allow myself 1 second. Let me just find an environment that I can access. Yeah, this one, I think. So just to put things in place, the current version of the SphereShield DLP covers messages only. We plan to add files, but currently, as for today, it's only messages. And it works quite simple. Let me show you here. So if I have a rule, so there are some default rules that come in the system, like bad words, credit cards, and so on. And if I open, it's a simple pattern. So it's a regex pattern. You decide what should be the action, block, monitor, or replay. So in messages, we can allow the credit card number, allow the message to go through and mask only the credit card number if you like. And you can notify admin different approaches. You can notify the user, and you apply or ignore specific rules. But just to make sure, currently it's only messages. We hope to add files around this year. So we have.
Excellent.
This is
Thank you. No, that's perfect.
The next feature is the eDiscovery. Though I recommend using with McAfee. Obviously, McAfee is much more advanced and robust engine than we, but if nothing else is available, you can certainly use our engine. The next feature is eDiscovery. So eDiscovery addresses compliance requirement, as most of our features, in which you can have a dashboard showing all content shared in Microsoft Teams. So it allows, first of all, to have an on-site copy of the data. So some regulations require archiving for many years and other reasons, or you might already have an eDiscovery system on-site in which to integrate the Teams traffic. So as you may know, Microsoft offers some capabilities of eDiscovery. It requires advanced or costly licenses, but they are available there. But if there's a need, or you want to have, from a financial perspective, something using our product, so you can use this. And we have two advantages which I can share around Microsoft. So the first one is that you can store the data under your control in your data center, not in the cloud. And this, you have like a dashboard, as hopefully you can see here, that you can search by different parameters such as text, dates, users, and so on. We handle both files and messages in our eDiscovery, and we show a very clear view of the conversation, which is something missing in the Microsoft platform. So you not only see the message, you see the full conversation, as hopefully you can see on the right-hand side, and even better here. So integrating with the DLP, we offer, when you identify an incident in the DLP, you can simply click on the conversation and you are redirected to the eDiscovery model, showing you the full conversation. On the right hand side, you can see a little bit of the conversation, and the sensitive message is the one marked in red, obviously. So this is the eDiscovery capability. And
Joel, I just have a question from, again, licensing standpoint. You have mentioned ethical wall and DLP are two separate components of overall SphereShield product, and they both are charged separately, pretty much identical pricing. So in case if we opt, let's we opt for DLP component on top of ethical wall along with McAfee's DLP engine to support, will there be any additional cost which will be paid to McAfee? Or
to McAfee, no. Like I'm not, if you buy it directly from us, so we have a sales agreement with McAfee, just as a side note. So potentially we encourage their salesperson whenever they sell, but it's for you as an end customer, it's the same price. So there's no additional cost to McAfee, to your question.
Okay.
Let me show you, just to be clear with the, I see this is a a question come up twice, so let me just show you the license model. This is for SphereShield for Skype, but it will be the same model here. So these are the licenses. So you see, you're currently using Ethical Wall, and this comes with the eDiscovery, and it will be also with the Risk Engine for Teams. And if you decide to add AMS5, the DLP, you just pay the fee for the DLP. It's the same price, so it's the same pricing for Ethical Wall and DLP, which are also, I can say, are more than reasonable for a security product. The values, the costs, and it will include the Risk Engine, which I'll now be showing you. So the next item is the Risk Engine. The Risk Engine has two main capabilities. One is to show you a live map from where people are connecting, and more important, where people are failing to connect from, which is typically a security value incident. It can be shown on a country or a city level. It includes different information such as IPs, user agents, obviously the user time, and so on. And the second part of the Risk Engine is a Geo Fencing engine that you can define from which countries you allow or don't allow, like it's a whitelist or a blacklist approach, people to sign in from. Maybe you expect people only from Australia. You can also apply these rules per Active Directory group. So in case you have, for example, a management or sales group which travels a lot, you can exclude them or add for them specific countries, whereas most of your employees should connect only from Australia. So any sign-in attempt that violates these policy creates an incident and is handled accordingly to the settings in the product. So this was the Risk Engine. We have another report I missed, sorry. You can see all of the live sessions currently, which people are connecting, from which device, IP, location, and other elementary information we can display, as you can see in this screen. So far I've covered the functionality. Before continuing to the topology, questions? Are we clear?
Yep. I do not have any question right now, but I'm sure I will be having some questions which I will send you over email maybe later.
Yeah. Okay. Let's review the topology. I'm sure I expect more questions. So to understand the topology, I would like to start first by explaining two operations mode we offer to the two main capabilities of the DLP and the Ethical Wall. We've named them real-time and near real-time inspection, and they affect the topology, which you'll understand in just a minute. So let's understand the modes. The real-time inspection means that we scan data in motion, so content never reaches the destination. Whereas the near real-time inspection scans data at rest. So content is still sent. It might reach the destination for a short time, but shortly after we identify the event and create an incident and delete the content. Other capabilities of the near real-time inspection are to cover existing content, not only new content from the time the product was installed. And this feature gave us the ability to address all content in Office 365. As you know, Teams stores data in Exchange, OneDrive, and SharePoint. And because we needed to master these platforms, we now have the ability to scan, in general, Office 365 content, not only related to Teams. The Ethical Wall modes, similarly, offer real-time and near real-time. The real-time blocks communication before established, as you've seen in the movies, and we are now working to release a near real-time control in which communication will be allowed in some cases. In some we can prevent, but in many we cannot prevent in near real-time. But any case, when communication is established, we immediately create an incident and handle this. For example, we delete the message, but still, because it's near real-time, the message was sent before us being able to block it. And now, hopefully, understanding the two modes, let's understand the topology and how this is related to the modes. So the topology at a high level contains the admin portal, which you're familiar with the SphereShield infrastructure. It's the same website with different menus. We have a new component, which is the adapter. The adapter is a component using Microsoft Graph API and connecting to your tenant in order to get relevant information and register to specific events. And the last component is the bastion, is a component not used by your topology, but is used for other SphereShield scenarios. It's a proxy which works both in a reverse as a forward proxy and required for some scenarios, which I'll explain in this slide. So what we have here, we have a slide showing you which features require which components. So if you're okay with near real-time DLP or antivirus and near real-time ethical wall, and you want to enjoy the risk engine in eDiscovery, all of these can be done by the adapter only. But if your company policy requires real-time DLP and antivirus and real-time ethical wall and later on the MDM, this requires the bastion proxy to be included in the topology. And this slide shows you the pros and cons of each topology. So applying real-time using the proxy is a prevent policy, so we prevent the incident from happening, but it's more complex for deploying because mobile deployment requires to install an agent. So we have an agent both for iOS and Android, and you need to install a certificate to allow us to inspect the traffic. And for PC, it depends if you're using ADFS or not. If you're using ADFS and you'll be publishing ADFS with our proxy, no client configuration is required. But if you're not using ADFS, you'll need also to configure your PC to route the traffic to our system using a pack file and installing a certificate. Whereas the near real time with the adapter is a much simpler deployment because no client-side configuration and changes are required. Questions on the topology so far?
No.
No. We plan to offer the service using two approaches. One is a SaaS, so no servers are required to be installed by you. And the other one is a customer installation base. So you can install the components under your control. You can install them on any Windows server, in your DMZ, or in your cloud provider, Azure or Amazon. It doesn't matter. And we offer 4 approaches, or 4 steps, I would call it, 4 stages, how to test the product. The first one, using our demo users. Second one is using your users with our sandbox environment. I'll explain them in a second. The fourth one is a dedicated cloud machine supplied by us. And the fourth one is installing all under your control. So the first scenario is trying it out with some demo users. So for this, we'll give you access to 3 machines we have set up, pre-configured with Bob, Alice, and Jim. We also have an external user called Henry, as seen in the movie, in which you have access to his credentials and can be used from any machine. You get access to the demo environment of our product, as well as detailed step-by-step scenarios how to experience and demo the product. Let me show you here, 1 second, our wiki page. Here, so you have here a try it yourself. Oh, sorry, that's the, oh yeah. Oh, I don't see it here. So you have, I'll send the links to you later. We have like a very detailed step-by-step scenario in which you can demonstrate the product. So it explains you exactly, send a message from Bob to Alice, this should be allowed. Send a message from Bob to Jim, this should be restricted, and so on. The second scenario is if you would like to experience this with your own users. So for the most simple approach is take a PC, configure a pack file. It's like a file configuring your traffic of teams to go through our solution. Install a certificate, and immediately you'll be able to see your traffic being inspected and controlled using our product in a demo environment. And for a POC, we can start by setting up for you a machine. So we set up dedicated servers. It's not like a multi-tenant. You'll have a dedicated environment set up only for Optus, and you don't need to install anything, and you can try the product. This service is free of charge. In our case, we prefer currently working with Amazon, the environment we're more familiar with. And the last approach is you want to install it in your environment, wherever machines are hosted, whether in the DMZ, on your cloud providers. So you also get in contact with our support, and we'll help you install it just as you've done with your on-premise Skype for Business. And again, this is free of charge. So I've came to the end of my presentation, and I'll be happy to hear any feedback you have or questions.
Thanks for your time, Yov. I need to understand a little bit more about the architecture. For example, integration of on-premise setup with the Graph API. So, because eventually in the near future or in the longer run, we are not planning to have any on-premise setup of Link, right? So eventually everything will be in Office 365. Every user will be using Teams. So in that case, I still need to understand if Skype Sphere have to have any on-premise presence or not, or can everything be controlled or kept and maintained in cloud?
Everything can be controlled in the cloud. So SphereShield for Teams does not require any component on-prem, with the exception of the ADFS. So if you're using ADFS and you want to take advantage of our capability to avoid client-side configuration of your PCs, we would need to publish your ADFS. So the ADFS obviously is an on-prem component. It's yes, regardless of us, but we need to publish this. Again, the Bastion, everything, as you see here, these three components can all be in the cloud. So we have
that's all right.
Well, and also McAfee typically is on-prem. So we have a connection to your on-prem, but everything is hosted on the cloud.
Okay. I don't have any other question right now. I will probably email to you. And Alex, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Well, hang on. No, that's not entirely true. Okay. So the question that's going to come back from the business to us, if this is an appropriate solution to meet certain business requirements, which is fundamentally why we're having this discussion, is when is this now general release?
It is released, but we have no production customers. So it was just released like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or something like this. So you'll be among the first users, the first customers.
It must be a significant early adopters discount then.
This pricing is already almost for free as far as I can see.
Oh, I know. We can always, we always get told we can do better. No, that's fine. That's a separate discussion. Is when do you expect the sort of the website or any sort of material to be available around SphereShield, just from a for us to review but disseminate around the business as well, just and make sure we read some of the fine print and things like that.
Everything is available already. I can send you. We have.
It's all available?
Yeah,
Okay,
we have it on site, and we also have this more technical wiki site. This one, how to configure and topologies, design and installation. So everything I'll send to you.
Excellent. Can you, everything you've got, can you share? And Varun's looking
Yes.
forward to doing some reading.
Yeah, I'll send it.
Perfect, thank you. No,
Yes,
that's it, I'm done.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. I'll finalize the recording and share it with you, and you can send it to Rob, if I recall the name, who did not manage to attend the call.
We can probably share it with InfoSec as well in case of the need to have.
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
Oh, we'll definitely have to at some point.
Okay.
That's great.
Thank you,
very much.
gentlemen. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.